My wife demanded, "I want a divorce, my mind is made up." I replied with a single text message. That text message contained proof of her lover's multiple other affairs, and she frantically changed her mind about leaving me, but I am done. I, 45, am just processing. Or maybe just numb. It's been a weird few days. 3 days ago, Wednesday morning, I was elbow deep in a quarterly budget review. Riveting stuff, I know, when my phone buzzed. It was Julia, 42F, my wife of 12 years. The message was short, sharp, and hit me like a rogue wave. "Julia, Alan, this isn't working. I want a divorce. My mind is made up. Don't try to change it. My lawyer will be in touch." 12 years, poof. Gone via iMessage. No discussion, no we need to talk, not even a tearful confession over lukewarm coffee. We'd literally been discussing a potential vacation to see the cherry blossoms just last weekend. Everything seemed normal, or what I thought was normal. I just stared at the screen. The words swam. Hurt? Oh yeah, that was there. A dull ache behind my ribs. Anger? Simmering, but mostly this weird, icy calm settled over me. She wanted clinical? She'd get clinical. My reply was even shorter than hers. Okay. Then the fog started to clear and the pragmatist in me took over. Lawyer will be in touch. Right? That means the gloves were off? The shared life we built was now a list of assets and liabilities. It was surprisingly easy to detach, almost like observing a character in one of my own stories. A little backstory. I'd always been a bit of a quiet observer. A few years back, Julia had started acting distant. More late nights with clients, more hushed phone calls she'd take in the other room. I wasn't born yesterday. Hired a discreet PI, a chap named Bruce, just to see what was what. He was a quiet, unassuming fellow, not at all what you'd picture for a PI, which probably made him better at his job. Cost a pretty penny, that retainer from Author Earnings Inc. But the peace of mind, or rather the confirmation of my suspicions, was priceless. The report was thorough. Julia wasn't just having an affair with her charming colleague, a smarmy guy named Jordan. Oh no. Jordan, it turned out, was juggling Julia with at least 2 other women. The PI got photos, text message screenshots from a burner phone Jordan was dumb enough to use. Even a recording of Jordan bragging to a mate about his roster. Classy. I'd sat on that information for 6 months. Part of me, the stupid, hopeful part, hoped maybe things would fizzle out. Maybe Julia would come to her senses and I'd never have to confront this ugliness. Her text demanding divorce, however, was the final, undeniable act. It wasn't just a rough patch anymore. It was a deliberate severing. That forced my hand. If she was determined to end it based on her affair, she deserved to know the full picture of the man she was choosing. So after I set my okay, I waited about an hour. Let her think I was reeling, maybe crying into my ergonomic keyboard. Then I forwarded one single, concise text message to Julia. It contained a crystal clear photo of Jordan, hand in hand with a redhead, leaving a boutique hotel, not the one Julia thought they frequented. Timestamped, last Tuesday. A screenshot of a text from Jordan to Rose3 saying, "Can't wait for tonight, baby. Julia's being a drag lately." A snippet from the PI's audio. Jordan's voice clear as day, laughing about how he had Julia wrapped around his little finger and how she was good for a fancy dinner or two. Then I turned my phone off, went back to my spreadsheets. Weirdly, the numbers suddenly seemed much more straightforward than human emotions. Update 1. 24 hours later. Well, that escalated quickly, or rather de-escalated from her end and then shot straight back up into crazy town. Phone stayed off for a good 3 hours yesterday. When I finally turned it back on, it was like a digital fireworks display. Missed calls 37, voicemails 11, increasingly hysterical. Texts. So many texts. They went something like this. "Julia. Alan, what is this? This is fake. You can't be serious. Where did you get this? Alan, pick up the phone. We need to talk. This is a mistake. Okay, maybe Jordan isn't perfect, but we can work through this. I didn't mean the divorce text. I was upset. My mind isn't made up. Alan, please. You can't do this to me. After everything. That redhead is probably his cousin. You're trying to ruin me. I'm coming home. We are talking about this. I'm not getting a divorce." The sheer, unadulterated entitlement. Her mind was made up until her lover boy was exposed as a serial slimeball. Now suddenly, I'm the one who can't do this to her. Fascinating. I didn't reply to any of it. What was there to say? Around 6 p.m., my doorbell rang. It was Julia. looking like she'd wrestled a badger and lost. Mascara tracks, wild eyes. "Julia Allen, let me in. We need to talk about this misunderstanding." Through the intercom, calm as a cucumber. "Julia, you said your lawyer would be in touch. I'm respecting your wishes. All communication goes through legal channels now. But I don't want a divorce anymore. That was a mistake. We can fix this. You and I can fix this." Me, "The only fixing I'm interested in is fixing myself a stiff drink. My lawyer, Miss Natalie, will be reaching out to your lawyer. That is, if you've actually retained one as you confidently stated. If not, she'll await contact from whomever you eventually choose. You can't just kick me out. This is my home too. Technically, the house is in my name. Prenup. Always listen to your cynical author friends, kids. Me, you left, Julia. You declared your intentions. I'm merely following through on the path you set. You'll have a chance to retrieve your personal belongings supervised at a prearranged time." She actually started crying then. Real tears, I think. Or maybe just frustration that her little bombshell had backfired so spectacularly. "Julia, but what about Jordan?" He said I was the only one. A tiny, almost imperceptible crack in my icy facade. A flicker of something that might have been pity if she hadn't tried to blow up our lives first. Me, "Seems Jordan says a lot of things to a lot of people, Julia. Perhaps you should have done your due diligence before you decided your mind was made up." Then her sister, Evelyn, pulled up. Evelyn, 45F, Julia's Irish twin and lifelong enabler. Always thought Julia could do no wrong. She stormed up to the door. "Evelyn, what the hell is going on? Julia is a mess. You sent her some horrible things. How could you be so cruel?" "Cruel? I believe Julia initiated cruelty when she texted me demanding a divorce with no explanation after 12 years, Evelyn. I simply provided some clarity on her chosen path. She made a mistake. She's emotional. You know how she gets. And that Jordan guy, he's probably just misunderstood." "Oh, the mental gymnastics. Impressive." Me, "Misunderstood with 3 different women? That's quite the misunderstanding. Look, I'm done talking. Lawyers, that was the rule, still is." I cut the intercom, drew the blinds, poured that drink. It didn't taste as good as I thought it would. But the silence was golden. Update 2. 1 week later. It's been a fun week. And by fun, I mean a relentless barrage of entitlement and attempted emotional blackmail, sprinkled with some truly pathetic dirty tricks. Julia and Evelyn apparently went straight to their parents, Ralph and Diana. Lovely people, usually. But when it comes to their precious Julia, blind as bats. Got a call from Ralph, 70M. "Ralph, Alan's son, Diana and I are very concerned. Julia is distraught. She says you've thrown her out and are spreading vicious lies about that young man, Jordan." "Ralph, with all due respect, Julia texted me demanding a divorce. I sent her factual information I had regarding her affair. Information she might find relevant now that her mind is made up about ending our marriage. She was upset, Alan. Women get emotional. You should be trying to win her back. Not this. She says she wants to come home, that she made a terrible mistake about the divorce. My lawyer, Miss Natalie, is handling all communication. Julia can have her lawyer contact mine if she wishes to discuss the terms of the divorce she initiated." Click. Felt bad for Ralph. He's a decent guy, but he's part of the enabling chorus. Then came Julia's attempt at a dirty trick. I got an email from my bank's fraud department. Apparently, there was an attempt to transfer a large sum, almost my entire personal savings, from my account to an unknown account. The transfer was flagged because it was out of character for my spending habits. I use a specific account for larger author advances. This was my day-to-day. They needed verification. I called them immediately, confirmed it wasn't me. They froze the attempted transaction. Guess who had my old online banking password memorized from years ago when she used to help me pay bills? Guess who thought I'd be too stupid or too devastated to change it immediately after the text? Yep, Julia. A desperate, idiotic move on her part. Miss Natalie was delighted. Attempted fraudulent transfer during divorce proceedings? That's not just messy, that's evidence. Julia must have realized it failed because then the text started again, this time directly to me. So much for lawyer will be in touch. Julia, Alan, my card was declined for groceries. I have no money. You cut me off. This isn't fair. Context. She has her own small trust fund from her grandmother. It's not a fortune, barely enough for a few months' rent if she budgeted carefully, and certainly not for her usual lifestyle. Accessing it probably requires more effort than crying to me. Plus, she'd likely rather chew off her own arm than touch her capital while she thought she could still squeeze me for daily expenses. Julia. Jordan isn't answering my calls. This is all your fault. You ruined everything by showing me those things and making him hate me. The logic is astounding, isn't it? Apparently, I'm to blame for Jordan's actions after his deceptions were revealed. Julia, I need money for a lawyer. You have to give it to me. It's marital money. That lawyer I mentioned before was too expensive once he heard the details. Reminder, prenup, and her initial claim of having a lawyer ready was clearly just bravado. My response to all of these? Screenshot. Send to Miss Natalie. No reply to Julia. The entitlement is breathtaking. She blows up the marriage, gets caught because her side piece is also a piece of work, tries to drain my bank account, and I'm the bad guy because she can't buy gourmet cheese without using my money. Evelyn also tried a new tactic. Facebook. A mutual acquaintance, probably aiming to stir the pot, forwarded me a screenshot of Evelyn's vague, teary status about watching someone you love be destroyed by a cruel, heartless man, and how some people will do anything to save their own ego. Tagged a bunch of our mutual friends. Cute. A few flying monkeys chimed in with sympathetic noises. I blocked Evelyn immediately after seeing it, not playing these games. Natalie is preparing a formal offer. Generous, considering. She can have her personal belongings, which are already boxed up in the spare room, clothes, shoes, those weird porcelain dolls she collects. A modest lump sum as a gesture despite the prenup, just to be done with it. The condition? She signs the papers, no contest, and a strict non-disclosure agreement about me, my work, and our life. If she fights, if she tries to drag this out, the offer is rescinded, and we go to court with all the evidence of her affair, Jordan's other women, and her attempted bank fraud. I'm not looking for revenge in the dramatic burn-it-all-down sense. I just want her gone. The fact that her own choices, her own greed, and her lover's duplicity are the instruments of her current discomfort? That's just an interesting plot twist. I actually slept through the night last night. First time in a week. The quiet is starting to feel less like silence and more like peace. Final update. 2 months later, well, it's done. Over. Benito. The divorce papers were signed, sealed, and delivered last week. It took a bit longer than expected, mostly because Julia, true to form, tried every last-ditch trick in the book. After my last update, Ms. Natalie sent the settlement offer. Julia initially refused to even have the cut-rate lawyer she eventually managed to hire look at it. She sent me a barrage of emails. My spam filter is now my best friend, alternating between begging, "I made a mistake, Alan. I love you. Jordan was a symptom of our problems. We can fix us," and threatening, "You'll regret this. I'll tell everyone what you're really like. I'll take you for everything." Her sister Evelyn and her mother Diana also kept up the pressure campaign. Calls, texts to my family members, even a passive-aggressive casserole left on my doorstep. I donated it to a local shelter, unopened. Their narrative was that I was a cold, calculating monster who had lured poor, innocent Julia into a moment of weakness, the affair, and then pounced. The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. The turning point, I think, was when Ms. Natalie formally submitted the evidence of Julia's attempted fraudulent bank transfer to her lawyer, a rather green chap who looked overwhelmed, along with a gentle reminder of the potential legal ramifications for Julia. Suddenly, this lawyer was much more willing to discuss the settlement. He probably advised Julia that her position was untenable. Then came the final act of entitlement. Julia, through her hapless lawyer, demanded more money. She wanted half the value of the house. Again, prenup, solely my name, bought before we even met. She wanted lifetime alimony. She wanted my vintage Omega Speedmaster, a gift from my late father. Are you kidding me? She even wanted rights to characters I may have based on her in my future books. LOL. Ms. Natalie just calmly reiterated, "Sign the original offer, or we proceed to court." And all of this, the affair, Jordan's other women. Ms. Natalie's team had, for funsies, tracked down Rose the redhead and another dalliance of Jordan's, both willing to provide statements about his methods. The attempted bank fraud becomes public record. and the generous lump sum disappears. Faced with actual consequences, with her dirty laundry about to be aired very publicly, Julia finally caved. Her lawyer, who I suspect was getting tired of her client's theatrics and probably just wanted the case off his desk, strongly advised her to take the deal and run. So she got her personal belongings, a moving company, supervised by a neutral third party, retrieved them. I wasn't even there. She got the lump sum, which is enough for her to land on her feet if she's smart, but not enough to maintain the lifestyle she was accustomed to with me. And she signed the NDA. The revenge? The best part is the fallout on her side. Jordan predictably ghosted her the moment he realized she was no longer attached to my income and the fun was over. Heard he's already moved on to someone new. Shocking. Julia is apparently staying with Evelyn, and from what little I've gleaned, a mutual acquaintance who couldn't resist some gossip, it's not going well. Evelyn is discovering that emotional Julia is also expects to be waited on hand and foot and contributes nothing Julia. The enabling is apparently wearing thin now that it directly impacts Evelyn's couch and grocery bill. Her parents are still supporting her, I'm sure, but they can't fund her old life forever. She'll have to get a real job. Or find another Jordan, I guess. As for me, the first few weeks were quiet. Too quiet. I found myself listening for her key in the door. But that faded. I've started writing again. Ideas are flowing. My agent loves the new darker edge to my protagonist. Funny that. There was no screaming match, no dramatic courtroom showdown. I didn't have to do much. I just held up a mirror to her actions. The text message I sent her with the proof about Jordan wasn't an act of revenge. Not really. It was an act of information. She was making a life-altering decision based on a fantasy. I just provided the reality check. The fact that her grand declaration of "my mind is made up" dissolved the second her lover boy was exposed, that was the most satisfying part. It showed her whole "I want a divorce" charade for what it was. A power play. An attempt to either trade up or make me grovel. She just never anticipated I'd call her bluff and have an ace up my sleeve. She tried to play chess, but she was playing against someone who'd already read the end of the book. She thought she was the main character, but she was just a messy plot device in her own downfall. And me? I'm just the author, finally writing my own peaceful next chapter, and it feels pretty damn good. The so-called revenge was her facing the unvarnished, undiluted consequences of her own choices and entitlement. And honestly, that's better than any fictional revenge I could ever write.